welcome back to our devotional series. Hope you're well, hope you're enjoying the sun. If you're down the beach, I hope I saw you on BBC News. Admittedly, I was down on the beach, but I do now live in Southbourne, so I'm not a visitor anymore. It's great. Today is our next devotional video. We are on to episode 1, 2. Before, we're going to be looking at Joseph, the lad in the Old Testament who went from rags to riches, and what's that all about? And we're going to ask the question today, what happens when life goes wrong? I've learned this a lot recently, not in the big things, but more in the small things, that life isn't always easy, life's annoying, life's chaotic, but sometimes life can be really, really hard too. And recently, moving down to the flat, I've realised that being prepared for when things go wrong is important. Like, I have spilt things, I've dropped glass bottles, I've broken IKEA furniture, and a lot of the time I don't have the things I need to clean it up, to fix it, but I've been getting better. I have some spray. I probably can't disclose the branding for advertising issues. Any cleaning spray is fine. Spray, I have carpet, because I'm doing a flipping review for like cleaning products. We should definitely have a Twinem cleaning product. Do you need to sort your problems out? Well, today we can offer you Twinem Spray and Twinem Clean, the brand new products from our youth leaders. We've especially designed these to one spray and all your problems go away. This one's about 45 quid if you buy it today, this one's 57. And if you buy both, you get a free dustpan and brush. So don't wait till your next issue, buy spray today. I honestly don't know what just happened. Who lets me do these videos? Yeah, I think lockdown's got to me a bit. But anyway, we're coming out of it, we're getting there, guys. So we're looking at Joseph, storylines, chapter 4, let's go. So you guys might know the story as the Technicolor Dreamcoat, the guy with the funky coat, the guy who, from rags to riches, he was a poor boy, sold into slavery, and now he's the Prince of Egypt. Like, what is that all about? Well, today, I want to focus on that his greatest success isn't where he got. What we can get from his life is how he dealt with suffering. How he dealt when things didn't just go bad, things went horrendous. Like, his entire life was ripped apart from him. So we find, like, in the story, that I love the Bible because it's real. This Bible isn't fairy tale, this Bible isn't stories made up, this is real people and real situations. We can see the brutality, the evilness of humanity, but we can also see the faith and the endurance of man. Like, these people have gone through these things. It isn't just a made up story, which is great. I also, side note, Noah, if you haven't read the whole of Noah, read it, it's great. It shows you the limit of our humanity. Like, what was it? He was called a faithful man of God, and that's why he was saved on the ark. He was going along. And what happened after he got off the boat? He got drunk and he got naked. Like, we praise this guy and his little animals 2 by 2, but this guy was as human as we are, and so is Joseph. Joseph is as human as we are. So yeah, I just want to focus today. This is a real story, this is a real guy, and I just really want you to hold to that. Don't think, oh, this is a fun little character from some made up book. This is a real guy. So we're going to jump straight in. What is the story of Joseph? So what's the story of Joseph all about? Well, we find Joseph and his 11 brothers. We find that Joseph's the favourite one. He gets all the nice stuff. The brothers get the hand-me-downs. Joseph would tell tales on his brothers, get them in trouble. Joseph was this arrogant, centre of attention guy who loved and knew he was a favourite. Like, from the outset, you might just write Joseph off like, oh, this guy's really arrogant, I don't like him. But I think that really drives home how much God worked through us despite our failures. How much God worked through us despite how, like, bad we can be inside sometimes. God didn't choose Joseph because he was like, oh, this guy's amazing. God chose this guy because he knew what he could be and because he loved him. God will work through your failures. God will work through everything. I'm not perfect. None of the leaders at Twinem are perfect, but God still works through us because he loves us and he can do that. And that's what we get. But we find something even more extreme. Joseph's brothers really, really didn't like him. They hated him. They hated his guts. So what they did, they sold him into slavery. Like, that just baffles my mind that humans have that level of things to do stuff like that. Like, it's just crazy that God still loves us despite what we do. And yeah, so Joseph's brothers are sent straight into slavery, and Joseph finds himself a slave. They told Joseph's dad that he got killed by a wolf, and now Joseph's a slave in a foreign land without his family. So this is what we find, and we find Joseph he's working in a house with his owner called Potiphar, and then one day Potiphar's wife's like, Potiphar was out, and Potiphar's wife was like, oh, Joseph, sleep with me. And Joseph was like, no, I'm not going to sleep with you. And then what she does is he tries to go and she grabs a bit of his cloak and she says to Potiphar, oh, Joseph tried to rape me. So Joseph finds himself thrown straight into prison. Not only was he sold into slavery by his own family in a foreign land, he's now been falsely accused of rape and he's stuck in prison. Like, this guy had everything and now he had nothing. We find he's forgotten in prison. One of the other people in prison was like, oh, you've really helped me in prison, I'm going to see if I can get you out, and he forgets about him. So Joseph's sold into slavery, he's falsely accused, and now he's forgotten. And then this guy who forgot him brought him to the Pharaoh because he remembered Joseph could interpret dreams. He remembered that Joseph could do what God was working in him. And then Joseph meets the Pharaoh, he interprets his dream, and Joseph gets ranked up to the top of the country. And he now rules the Pharaoh and sees Egypt for a really tough time. So yeah, we think Joseph's gone from up here to down here to up here. And that's necessarily the arc of Joseph. There's a massive, he starts up here, he drops down here, and he goes up to here again. And how does God work through that? Where is God working through all of this? There is so much suffering, so much pain, and what's it all about?
Yeah, so why did I just rant about Joseph's life to you guys? Well, that's because Joseph creates such a strong image of what life is like in suffering. How God works through our suffering, how God works through our circumstances to bring transformation.
And I kind of want to go through 3 bite-sized things today. It's too much to unpack in one video.
So
if you have any prayer requests or anything, if this like sparks anything in your head, you're like, I really need to talk to someone about this, message us. Drop us on Instagram, however you contact us, get in contact with us, and as leaders we can pray with you, we can call with you, we can talk with you, because we want to see you guys transformed, and that's why we're doing this.
So 3 points. First one, God is in control. Second one, God is still near.
And third one, God is transforming us. So number 1, God is still in control. I think it's a massive thing, it's a massive lack of peace within ourselves. We feel so uneasy and we forget that God is in control. That when life seems chaotic, when everything seems to be going wrong, how can anyone still be in control? But the Bible says again and again that God is in control of every situation, of every moment. He has ordained it, He is holding it in His hands. So when life just seems to be going absolutely awful, like, know that God is still in control. This isn't the end. Keep going. I found it a real big peace recently just to rest in that. Like, I could find myself rushing around the day like, what's going on? I can't do this. Why is this happening? And just to sit down and be like, actually God is in control. If I just trust Him and move, like, things will happen. And that's what you got. That's all we got to do. It's all we're called to. It's not that God is in control. There's a Bible verse where it says, something about the plans of men? Right, I looked up the verse. It's about how the plans of man are made, but it's the purposes of God that will stand. So we can do whatever we want. We can try and make our own plans, but it's God's purpose that will stand. When someone does something against you and they hurt you, that isn't the end, because God's got a bigger plan for that. So that's number 1, God is in control. And I'd urge you to look at Corrie ten Boom. She is such an amazing figure, the modern day understanding of what life is like in suffering. Even in the concentration camps and the war, she saw God move, she saw God was in control. In the darkest moments, God is there. And that moves us on to my second point, that God is near. He's not abandoned you. Your life going wrong, you slipping up. I think a lot of the times we can live in a chaotic life because of decisions we've made. We've screwed ourselves over. And that's not going to mean God's abandoned you. God's not turned His back on you because of that. God is still there. God is still near. And that's my second point, that God has not abandoned us. He is there in the darkest moments. He's there in Joseph's prison cell. He's there when Joseph was in slavery. And He was there when Joseph was lifted up and put in this position of power.
I think it's well interesting that where the Bible says in Joseph's story that God is with Joseph,
the story of Joseph counts up to 419 verses. And this is 10,000, over 10,000 words are on Joseph in the Bible. And only twice, in these 10,000 words, only twice does it say where God was with Joseph. And do you know where these are? These 2 places. The first is when Joseph was a slave. It says the Lord was with Joseph so that he prospered. And the second was when Joseph was a prisoner. But while Joseph was in prison, the Lord was with him. He showed him kindness and granted him favour. Before Joseph was sold into slavery, he was the centre of attention and he was uplifted this high by the people around him. And then at the end of the story, he's so high up in the Egyptian politics that he is as elevated by everyone around him. But at his lowest points, God was the one who held him up. The lowest point, the only two places where it just explicitly, God is in the whole story throughout, but the only two places where it explicitly says that God is with Joseph is in his two hardest moments. And that might be the same for you, but that might not be the same. As in, you don't know that God is with you, and you need to know that today. Maybe you need to hear that God has not abandoned you. God is not distant, He is right near in your hardest circumstances, in your hardest moments. God is near as He was with Joseph. There's a really cool verse in the Psalms where the psalmist says about lifting his eyes to the mountain, and that's where his hope comes from. And those mountains were the mountains around Jerusalem, where God was meant to be. God, to the Israelites and to the Jewish people, God dwelt in Jerusalem. So He looked to where God was to find His hope, to find His strength. And for us, God isn't just in Jerusalem, God's inside you and God's all around you. Just look to God, He is right next to you. And be like, God, I can't do this on my own. And that's the beauty of the Bible, it's the beauty of God, that we don't have to be strong on our own because we have God. You don't need to have it all together because He does. And that's the simplicity, that God is near you in your deepest suffering. God has not abandoned you, He is there as He was with Joseph in his darkest moments. This is quite a heavy video today, and it can feel like you watch this and you're like, oh. So that's why I want my third point to focus on transformation, how God can transform you when life goes wrong. You have two options this morning. When life gets hard, you turn to God or you turn away from God. And like the prodigal son, you can see when we turn away from God, we find ourselves in the pit where we're like, where am I? I am not home. I am so far away and I just need to come back. And that's been such a reality in my life, and maybe that's something where you need to turn around and realise now, turn back to God. He is there, He is not ashamed of you, He loves you, and He's there in every situation. And I'd encourage you, when life gets hard and you just sit there and you're like, oh, what do I do? Remember these two options, turn away from God or turn to God. And obviously you know which one I'm going to suggest you do, because for us, that is the greatest joy, that is the greatest hope. When Jesus was on the cross, it says He could bear the suffering because of the hope set before Him. And you know that hope was me and you. That hope was that we could be in perfect relationship with Him. And we have a hope in Jesus, and we have a hope that people who went before us, that they have such joy found in God. They found such peace, they found freedom. Freedom's it, that's it. The freedom from our suffering is not for it to go away, it's to thrive with God in it. I'll say that again. The freedom in our suffering isn't that it just goes away, but it's to thrive and use it with God so we can be transformed. And that's the second part of my transformation, is forgiveness. For a lot of us, our suffering comes from things which are done to us, things that happen to us. And maybe you need to let that go today. And it won't happen instantly. It won't just be like click your fingers and it runs away. Like, it takes time, it takes process. And the story of Joseph shows us how messy forgiveness can be. When Joseph's brothers come back to him when he's in Egypt, he knows who they are, but they don't know who he is. And these are his brothers who sold him into slavery. And what he does, he plays a little mind game with them. He tells them that he's going to take one of the younger brothers, Benjamin, because apparently Benjamin stole something. Joseph plays this kind of mind game with them. And one of the possible reasons for this is because forgiveness is messy. Joseph saw his brothers and Joseph saw his power, and he could have used it against them. He could have just had them crushed right there. And he's probably working out inside himself, what do I want to do? It says that when Joseph was alone after he met his brothers, he just went into his room and wept. There is emotion, there is so much going on. Forgiveness is messy, but forgiveness leads to freedom. It could be, and sometimes I feel like it's just eating us away, that the person we haven't forgive, the situation we haven't let go, it's just eating away at us. And God is big enough to take it. God is big enough to let that go. Just put it onto Him. You don't need to be perfect before we approach God. Literally just sit down and be like, God, show up. I cannot do this on my own. I need you right now. And that's a simple thing I'm telling you this morning, is that God is still in control. God has not abandoned you. He is near. And all you need to do is just let Him transform you. So I hope you're well. I hope you're great. We'll do some more videos soon. But yeah, anything you need, drop us a message.